Vice President of Policy and spokesman Ted Dabrowski is on the line. Ted, good morning.
Hey, good morning to you.
How you doing this morning, Ted?
I'm doing great.
I'm looking at a piece that you have up at IllinoisPolicy.org. Illinois' next tax hike could mean pain at the pump. Boy, as a citizen of this fine state for my entire life, I couldn't be more delighted to hear that.
Well, one of the things that drives me craziest is when I drive around the country when I'm traveling and I get gas, in Indiana or elsewhere, it's amazing how much cheaper it is. And so to hear the politicians want to raise gas taxes again, just after they did a $5 billion tax hike, just after they claimed they balanced the budget, which we can talk about that as well, they're coming right back at us and saying they want more money from people's, wallets. And it's just, frankly, despicable. They keep hoodwinking us, and they keep asking for more money, and it just seems like it doesn't end. And it might be the gas taxes are the next big tax hike.
And especially in a state that is leading, I know the Midwest. I don't know if we're leading the entire country in outbound migration, but I know we're leading the Midwest in it. Let's find another way to run people out.
Well, absolutely. It's, right now we have some of the highest gas taxes in the nation. Today we're about 18th highest in the nation. Our gas tax is kind of special. It has a sales tax on top of it. There's only seven states that put a sales tax on the gas taxes. And so that means as the gas prices go up, our taxes go up. And, as early as 2011, we had the third highest gas taxes in the nation because of those sales taxes going up. So, to try to hike taxes again now, and then if and when gas prices go up, we'll be competing for the number one spot in the highest gas taxes in the nation. And that's just not fair to Illinois, who are just struggling, and that's why many are leaving.
And, Ted, what stinks is whenever we hear that Illinois is competing for the number one spot, it's the number one spot you don't want.
Yeah, if it wasn't for the Cubs and sometimes the Blackhawks, the number one spots we get are the wrong ones, and it just happens over and over again. How
much money are we talking about in this tax hike? Because a number hasn't been laid out yet, has it?
Well, that's the scary part, right? They're kind of throwing out trial balloons. You've had a couple legislators come out and say, maybe 5 cents, maybe 5%, not knowing what that means. There's all kinds of proposals out there, anywhere from a $350 million increase to over $2 billion a year. No matter what, Illinois have been paying more and more. We have the nation's highest property taxes. We just had the $5 billion tax hike. So, regardless of what they're thinking, it's money Illinoisans can't afford.
You point out in your piece, by the way, if you're just joining us, Ted Dabrowski's with us, Vice President of Policy at Illinois Policy, IllinoisPolicy.org. He has a piece up now that we're talking about, now. The title of it, Illinois' next tax hike could mean pain at the pump. You'd mentioned legislators. Our own State Senator Dave Severson had said it may increase the cost of gas by 5 cents a gallon. You do the math on that one. That would imply a total tax hike of approximately $3.50. Now, that's on the low end, right?
That's on the low end. There's other plans. There's a big group called the Metropolitan Planning Council who's kind of got a big holistic plan. They want $43 billion in capital spending over the next decade, and they want half of that to come from taxpayers and the other half to come from private sector. So you're talking about their $2 billion a year. If it's somewhere in between, it's still a lot of money, and that particularly hurts people in the big cities where of course, places like Rockford and Chicago and other big cities where the gas costs more just because you're in the city.
Which is amazing. You point out, take Chicagoans, for example. City drivers on average pay $2.83 at the pump. According to AAA, a fourth of that price is due to taxes. On average, Chicagoans pay more than 70 cents in federal, state, and local taxes on every gallon of gasoline. Boy, does that add up.
Well, and I tell you what's interesting is, you go pump the gas and you get a receipt. It doesn't break out all the taxes you pay. And so what we did is we made a dummy receipt here on our piece, and we just broke out all the taxes. You got your federal tax, you got this storage tax, you got sales taxes, then you got a state motor fuel tax, and then a city fuel tax, and a Cook County fuel tax. And by the time they're finished, it's you're paying over 75 cents of taxes on a gallon of gas.
Amazing.
When the original price of the gas, before you add all these taxes, was $2.10. So that's how you get so high.
And as you had pointed out, one of 7 states with sales tax on gas. California, Connecticut, Georgia, Indiana, Michigan, New York, and us apply sales tax to gasoline. So gas goes up, so does what you'll pay.
Absolutely. So that's one of the negatives. And on top of that, add fuel to the fire. Not only do you pay a sales tax on the fuel cost, but you also pay a sales tax on the federal tax. So we're paying taxes on top of taxes, which is just our insult to injury. So, we're one of those 7 states that does that. And as I mentioned, in 2011 when gas prices were really high. We were the third highest in the nation, and I'm sure at that point Chicago was number one. So, again, we're talking about paying more taxes when it costs you the most, right? When you're having the most pain at the pump is when you're paying the biggest taxes.
Ted, I know your job is to look at all things Illinois and all that, but have you glanced at other states that may be doing it right as opposed to what we're doing, which definitely seems wrong?
Well, it all starts with, just having fiscal discipline, right? So we can talk about gas taxes, but I think the bigger issue is that, most states have a balanced budget. Most states actually have a budget, and most states aren't spending more than they take in. Illinois has that reputation of always spending more than it has, hoodwinking the taxpayers, and that's where we're in this situation where they're always asking for more money. So we laid out a plan as Illinois Policy Institute to balance the budget without tax hikes, and that means reforming all kinds of spending, from pensions to Medicaid to how we do our subsidies for state and local governments. The only way we're going to get back to normalcy is to start reforming how we spend, not just keep taxing people more.
And that's one of the terrific things, as I point out about Illinois policy, is you guys will lay out a critique on how things are being done and how things are being proposed to be done. But it isn't just a critique and then a walk away. You offer up alternatives to what you're seeing. So it isn't just a criticism. There's also suggestions built in that a lot of thought goes into.
Well, I think everybody's now critiquing, whether you're left, right, Republican, Democrat, Libertarian, or support of Bernie. Everybody's complaining about the situation in Illinois. Everybody knows that it's not working, that the people are being hoodwinked. The problem is nobody knows what the right solution is, or many people aren't putting out solutions. And that's why it was important for us, or I should say differently, others want just more taxes and more money from people, from people's wallets. We put out a plan that said, wait a minute, we don't need to keep taking money from people. What we need to do is reform how we spend. We need to be smart about how we spend things, and we need to make sure that we respect our taxpayers, not treat them like ATMs.
Right, and Chicago is a perfect example of treating taxpayers like ATMs with the sugary drinks tax, the pop tax, whatever you want to call that. When you got Michael Bloomberg reaching into his wallet to dig out $2-3 million or more to throw in an advertising campaign to buttress what has already been made into law, I get the idea. People don't like it.
Well, people don't like it, and it's funny that politicians from Mike Madigan to others are complaining about the sugary tax. When it was Mike Madigan who just supported a $5 billion, the largest tax hike ever, permanent tax hike in Illinois. So, people are going to get sick of it. We have a piece coming out in the next couple of days about how Cook County is passing the sugary tax, and we're going to show the level of pension payments that they're making to a lot of workers in Cook County, and it's just unbelievable that we would make those kind of multi-million-dollar pension payouts to people and then turn around and tax people with low income a very regressive tax through their sugary tax. It's just unfair and just unfathomable, actually. Yeah,
and unfortunately, it just seems to be business as usual here in the state of Illinois.
Well, what I like is that finally people are standing up. I wish they would stand up to more than just the sugary tax. The sugary tax is a relatively small tax compared to some of the other stuff that's gone on. But sometimes it takes something like that to motivate people and to wake them up and to realize that our legislators are not doing their job and making the cost of government affordable to the people who pay for it.
He's a guy who knows his stuff. He's Ted Dabrowski. He's VP of Policy at Illinois Policy, IllinoisPolicy.org. His piece is up. Illinois' next tax hike could mean pain at the pump. You'll want to read that and a bunch of other things at Illinois Policy. These guys are really plugged into what's going on. Ted, as always, I appreciate you taking time out of your day to fill us in.
Oh, thank you.
Have a good one.